of the top lane.
Thank you very much, Riv. Actually in a sweet spot here with overlooking the stands. First up, congratulations, QV. You guys have made it to the semifinals in a very nice 3-0 over Cloud9. How do you feel you personally performed in this series?
우선 8강 진출 축하드리고요. 이번 8강전에서 3대 0으로 매우 이제 좋은 경기력으로 이제 4강 진출하셨는데 이번 8강에서 본인의 경기력에 대해서 어떻게 생각하시나요?
이번 경기력에서는 제가 할 수 있는 걸 다 할 수 있을 것 같아서 굉장히 만족스럽고 앞으로도 이런 경기력으로 계속 하겠습니다.
I'm very satisfied that I gave everything I could to the game, and I just hope that I can play as good as today's game in the future games.
Yeah. And applause for that phenomenal performance. There is a lot still left to come due to your first seed in the groups. You got a favorable draw, and a lot of people are putting Samsung already in the finals. But how are you looking towards your semifinal versus H2K or Albix Nox Luna?
이제 삼성팀이 조별에서 1위를 차지함으로써 이제 매우 좀 좋은 8강 대진을 받았는데 지금 이제 비록 많은 사람들이 삼성은 지금 현재 대진에서는 결승전까지 올라갈 수 있다고 예측하고 있지만 이제 다음 4강전에서 붙을 수 있는 H2K나 또는 ANX과의 그 팀 대해서 어떻게 생각하시나요?
이제 H2K가 제 생각으로 올라올 것 같고 무시할 수 없는 팀이라고 생각하기 때문에 충분히 준비를 많이 해서 상대하도록 하겠습니다.
For now, I think H2K has a better chance to advance to the semifinals, and they're a really good team, and I don't think we could play like easily at them at all. So we're gonna try our best and prepare our best for the semifinals.
Right, we will see what happens. The story of Samsung in this world is very interesting. A lot of people doubted you before the group stage, but then you got first seed. Now you're going to New York in the semifinal. How have your own expectations, your hopes, and your goals evolved over the past couple of games and weeks?
그 삼성이 이제 대회 시작 전에는 그렇게 많은 사람들이 이제 삼성팀이 이렇게 좋은 성적을 낼 줄 몰랐고 좀 아직 검증이 필요하다고 얘기했지만 이제 조별에서 1위도 통과했고 8강에서 지금 3대 0으로 진출하셨는데요. 이제 큐베 선수 개인적으로는 대회를 진행하면서 그 대회에 대한 기대치가 어떻게 발전하셨나요?
이제 저희는 이제 롤드컵에 진출하면서부터 상당히 잘해졌다고 느꼈기 때문에 그게 큰 걱정은 안 했고 앞으로 이제 대회를 하면서 더 성장할 수 있을 것 같습니다.
기대치는 따로 없고 그러니까 우승할 수 있는 기대치? Okay. So even when we qualified for World Championship, we were really satisfied with our own performance. So we had belief in ourselves that we could play well at the tournament. And I think we'll keep on improving, so I have high hopes for our team.
All right, we will see what happens. Again, congratulations. Fantastic run into the semifinals. Samsung and QV Dash wrap up the day.
Thank you very much, Shocks. Kuve there and the rest of Samsung Galaxy going to be very happy with the 3-0 sweep in their quarterfinal, moving themselves on to New York City. And let's just try and approach how they did it tonight. I mean, each game got progressively longer, and whether or not that's C9 learning or Samsung, changing their compositions and more a product of the games themselves, what are your guys' thoughts?
Samsung obliterated C9, and I think they should set their sights on the World Championship now. Like, the performance they put in the group stage to now and the fact that they are likely going to be able to make it to the finals, they just continue to get better. And I also love the fact that Crown apologized before he even did this. He said, I'm sorry, NA fan, but I too came here to win. He's just really polite dude.
Confidence is a good thing.
Yep, very much so. You got to have confidence coming into a matchup like this. If we approach just this game specifically to break it down just for a moment, we have to look at the fact that, they went for the Zac, the Orianna. They did their best. And of course, Meteos did come up with a few early kills, but it still seemed like for Cloud9, it was more execution errors, riddled with execution in what were moments of maybe good decision-making, just not quite being able to capitalize on it.
I mean, the first thing that I noticed is that this is definitely the game where potentially C9 have 3 winning lanes. So even though the Zac is not the highest pressure jungler, especially compared to the Olaf, it's still 3 winning lanes and this long-ranged artillery kind of ganker. So it looked like this could definitely be the game where you snowball early to mid, get a big lead. And although C9 were ahead, they were never ahead by enough given the comp they were facing. So even though it felt like they had momentum in this game, they weren't kind of dotting their I's, crossing their T's, growing a lead. And the fact that Samsung stayed within touching distance of gold throughout the mid game was actually winning for Samsung.
Well, it was heartbreaking for me watching the lack of synergy between Cloud9, particularly the ganks in the mid lane. We would have liked to see, once again, Meteos punishing crown without any summoners, but it just didn't happen. The synergy with the Orianna and the Zac, as cool as it is to see those two champions together, when they pull it off right, they never did it. And that's the kind of play that you need to be making if you're looking to advance to the semifinals and make a run for a world contender. Cloud9 didn't have any of that except for one play in the entire series, and that was with Sneaky and Meteo's synergy. And if you just don't have that with any lanes, you're not going to get too far.
And while we talk about C9 being in the position to push the pace here in this game, it was Samsung's ability to strike back in the moment that really pushed them forward, which is showcased in our replay, brought to you by Acer. Top lane here, C9 being the aggressors, but completely turned by Samsung Galaxy.
Yeah, and this started off with the great ultimate from Core JJ. He brings in Ambition, and Sneaky doesn't have any way of retreating. Ambition was always in the right place at the right time. But then you also look at the continuation of this fight. Down on the bottom side, you can see the Poppy actually interrupts the teleport coming in from the Jace. That puts Meteos, even though he's able to get 2 kills, in a pretty positive position, but they're able to stop the teleport, and it means Poppy can come in later on the extended fight.
Yeah, and once he stops it, he's able to take the bottom turret and then use the wards that were placed earlier by CoreJJ to TP to the top side, and they just need to stall out here. You know you can tank the turret safely with the Tahm Kench. Just wait for the Poppy to get in. They do just that, and even though Jensen mispositions a little bit, there really isn't anything for him to do. They're going to get killed.
And you talk about the top lane matchup also, the Poppy versus Jace, another solo kill for Cuvée in a tough matchup in this game. It's 2 times, not just this time we saw, but there was also a second interrupt on those big teleport plays. So Cuvée, once again, really lighting up the Rift.
Yeah, and I want to continue and hammer that point there because Cuvée is going to be the player who picks up our MVP for the series here. And really, I mean, highlight reel for him. You mentioned the solo kills. I mean, 6 solo kills coming into this series, 5 tonight. I mean, that's absolute insanity.
And I touched on this play, on his development, on his Smeb-esque roots. I mean, think about it. He was actually having a very average LCK summer till they finally beat KT. He was the only player to lose all 19 games in that streak. He kind of finally overcame that unstoppable objective in taking down Someday. And since then, he's been a new player. He's taken his play to a different level, and he's been right up there. It used to be Duke, Someday, Smeb. These are the 3 top lane Korean gods. Cuvé's not ready to join that list just yet, but damn if he's not really close.
And 3 super solid games on 3 different champions with fairly varying playstyles. This guy not only showed dominance, but he did it on a multitude of champions.
Exactly. What I loved about his play today is that he had everything. He stopped TPs, he had great TPs, amazing team fights, solo kills, roams, you name it. He was doing everything for the team, and what more would you want out of a top laner?
He was just one of the 5 members that was victorious today, and with their win, Samsung Galaxy takes the first spot in next week's semifinals. They'll face the winner of Sunday's series between Europe's H2K and the LCL's Albus Nox. And gentlemen, as we look at this bracket with the dominance showing that Samsung Galaxy put up, you've already mentioned they're probably front runners for this side of the bracket to go to the finals. But I mean, if I'm H2K or Albus Nox, I am terrified of even advancing to face them.
And Samsung continues to answer questions. I asked at the start of the day whether or not they could switch over from being underdogs to being prohibitive favorites. And I think, yes, they absolutely can. Can they play more champions than they've shown? Absolutely. They can actually play multiple different styles. They're looking better and better as this thing goes on, and we're still with the very small sample size. So that's the question they have to consistently answer, is whether or not they can maintain this exceptional level of play.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be back here tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. Pacific, as we head to the other side of the bracket for a best-of-5 between reigning champions SK Telecom T1 and the LPL's Royal Never Give Up. So, gentlemen, preliminary thoughts on this matchup tomorrow.
I mean, I'm going to say Uzi's words. I'm going to be surprised if RNG can take a game off SKT. They look incredible. They look like such a strong team that is able to play an incredible amount of styles as well on top of champions, and that's just something that you cannot take for granted.
I mean, if you let SKT play the game, you do not often win. This has been the history of League of Legends, but RNG have the skill and can play that really aggressive style on their day to actually take a game early and snowball a win from SKT. So I think RNG can take a single game, but betting against SKT this tournament is an uphill battle.
I think it's highly unlikely, but Mata also said if Uzi was on this team, we would beat SKT at MSI. Uzi is now on that team, but it's still highly unlikely because of the level SKT is playing at and the inconsistency RNG showed.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of contradictory. We've got Uzi's statement and Mata's statement, both of them kind of at odds with each other. But be sure to stick around after tonight's show because QuickShot, Clement, and Azael will recap today's series and preview tomorrow's quarterfinal clash in another edition of Worlds Tonight. Now, for us, though, it's time to sign off. So for myself, the casters, the entire live broadcast crew, thank you all for joining us here in the Windy City, and we'll see you tomorrow.